Okay, perfect. Here we go. Welcome. So this week to class, and this is to the first class of the Heart Sutra course. So I'll see. I have to actually go back to work next week, so I might have to do a couple recordings while I'm away. But I have a lot of December and January off, so I'm going to be able to do more live classes, which is good, which is what I prefer. I always find just recording things, teaching to myself, looking at myself on the screen, just kind of weird and a little unsettling. So I prefer actually to interact with real people. So I can't wait to do some more live classes with you guys, which is good. I just will, without making it too much of a Sunday sermon here or a rant, but I just have to do it just for my own personal reasons. But of course, today is Remembrance Day. So this is it's kind of interesting because Christina, coming from a Spanish background, she's like, well, that's kind of your Northern European WASP background to celebrate this all the time. And it's actually true. I just realized so many of my friends, because they're Asian or Filipino or Japanese or whatever, Remembrance Day for them is just like, it doesn't really have the same kind of force. I just realized that more from an English point of view, my WASP background with the English Empire and everything else in the two great wars, and then coming from a military family where I had veterans serve in both wars, Great Wars and World War II. My dad was in the Air Force, my cousin. I was destined to be in the Air Force myself, but like I said, this little geeky Harry Potter guy somehow took a rebirth in this military family, and I just obviously couldn't cut it. I don't think I could ever have served in the military looking the way I am. But anyway, so but I do want to take a moment just to have a moment of remembrance, not just for us, but really, as I always like to say, the first Remembrance Day, when you look at when armistice was starting after the Great War, and it was on the 11th minute, 11th hour of the 11th day, 11th month. It was sort of picking an off, almost bardo time to remember things. So it's at the 12th month or the first month is something towards completions is a little unsettling or a little off. Making it that way is a way that we'd always remember it. And of course, that they used to call that. I remember as a kid, even in the early 70s, there was a real push at that time. We were lucky in Western countries, even though we're in a Cold War, to be in sort of a little bit more of a position of peace and less conflict, at least in our part of the world, compared to now. Since 9/11 started in the 21st century of just absolute war and chaos. So at that time, I always felt, even as a kid, there was a real push to remember in this idea, like the First World War, they always said it's the Great War. This is the war to end all wars. In other words, let's try and always remember this. So in our own personal lives and our public lives, we can sort of create a world of peace, international peace, where we no longer have any wars. So from a samsaric point of view, when you hear that, there's something childish, innocent, almost ridiculous about that, right? Like, oh yeah, sure, as if there's ever going to be no wars in the future. But this was the hope of a lot of people at the end of the Great War, that something so absolutely horrible would sort of shock people out of their complacency and not accept it. And then what I found over the years, especially over the last number of years, is that Remembrance Days, oftentimes politicians and people in the military industrial complex use as a way to remember the importance of war. Like, this is actually that day to gear us up, and more taxes and more money and more bombs and everything else. And so I just feel like us seeing the Heart Sutra today, starting auspiciously, Heart Sutra really is about stopping the war to end all wars, which is the war of everyone against everyone else with their egos and samsara. This is a way of stopping samsara. So the Heart Sutra, this one page of text, is the ultimate statement of not just international, but cosmic peace. So today, on remembering the war to end all wars, remembering all the wars in the world going right now, and the wars we no longer think about, like, right now we're all focused on Israel and Gaza, but Syria is still going on. I mean, that's been going on for over 10 years now, people dying. Ukraine now, watch, no one will, as people start ignoring that, that'll keep going. So I think it's sometimes even good, sorry, like, again, I'm starting to feel, so I didn't tell people that I was actually like a roundhead, like, minister in the English Civil War. Like, I was a Puritan with the buckles on the shoes and like the big hat, and dressed in black. Sometimes I feel like that I'm lecturing everybody on at the pulpit here. I don't mean to be that way, but it's good to remember that there's all these wars going on that no one even notices, and that there was this beautiful Spanish Mexican artwork I saw. It was in Harper's Magazine years ago. It was good. It has the painting's divided in two. It has this beautiful couple dancing at this party. It's like some big fiesta, and then right underneath it is everybody in hell. And so it's a good reminder, like not like don't spoil your party, right? But I'm just in the idea that things might be going really well for you, but meanwhile, in other parts of samsara, beings are really, really suffering. So it's not about being, like these saints like Pat Rinpoche or Shantideva, where it's just like every moment of your day be miserable because everyone else is miserable. But it's the idea that we have to always have our bodhicitta activated, where we're thinking and remembering and recommitting ourselves ethically at each moment to everyone else, that there's so many other places of trouble. So remembering people in their prayers and in our prayers and our efforts. And so oftentimes at the beginning, I think it was either late 90s or beginning of the early 2000s, there was, I can't remember, it goes to show, like even me, like, I'm not some world history expert or something, but there was a gigantic war in the Congo, if you remember, and there was a number of African countries struggling over resources and politics, fighting, and something like 1 million people died in that war, and it wasn't even reported on. It was just one of these hidden areas of samsara where there was so much suffering and no one even really cared. So it's just bodhicitta means, again, just at each moment thinking about this kind of stuff and doing your best to sort of sending our love, sending our prayers, sending our care and help. How can we help at this moment? What can we do to make the world a better place? And the ultimate thing is we're trying at each moment to become Buddha, that we teach emptiness. Emptiness is the big medicine for all of this stuff. And so at each moment, let's try and get enlightened. Once we get enlightened, what happens? We're just like this immortal angel that just teaches Dharma to all sentient beings. And then gradually they become enlightened. So like one little drip filling a bucket here, bit by bit, to enlightenment. So the Heart Sutra, basically starting this course, we'll see, is just about that. And that you can distill all the Prajnaparamita teachings, all 100,000 verses, into that one page, and then you can distill all that one page into that one Prajnaparamita mantra, which is absolutely amazing. So the course today is about that, starting that. So with that, let me just read the Heart Sutra. Okay. So this is that we can even just take ourselves back in what they call the second turning wheel of Dharma. So Buddha Shakyamuni is teaching these teachings at Rajgir in Bihar, India, that one little part near Vulture's Peak, this one little mountain. And his voice is ringing to all the different dimensions, and all sentient beings are hearing this. Homage to perfection, wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I have heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and Mass Vulture's Mountain, together a great assembly of monks and nuns and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Superior Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection of wisdom, looking perfectly also the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Superior Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Superior Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly also the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is not other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics. They're not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so forth up to no mentality element, and also up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, and no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in perfection wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing on perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly, and 3 times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, the equaled and the unequaled mantra, the mantra that clearly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection wisdom is proclaimed. Tayata, Gada Gada Paragata Parasamgadi Bodhi Soha. Shariputra Bodhisattva, great beings, should train the profound perfection wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to Spirit the Bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good, O son of Lin, just like that. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed in that way, the profound perfection wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. And the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, Spirit the Bodhisattva, the great being, the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed. Okay, so let's take a moment just again to visualize ourselves here surrounded by all sentient beings. So Mother on our left, Father on our right, people we love the most behind us as support, and people we like the least have issues with in front of us as objects of healing and compassion. And moving out from there, just again, a kind of unremembered state, thinking of all the sentient beings suffering, all humans and animals suffering in the world, and everyone else, so the whole human family and animal or sort of natural world family we have. Spirit world here as well. Celestial beings of gods and demigods. And beings from lower states of rebirth, from different hell realms and hungry ghost realms and so forth. So we're all here, just all of samsara, all sentient beings meditating together. And just on a beautiful open plain, ground like lapis lazuli, dome of a beautiful blue sky above us. I'll do something a little bit different today for the visualization. So just to try and tailor it to the Heart Sutra. So what we're going to visualize in the sky are just two figures. So if you can visualize, it's kind of interesting, like two beautiful suns in the sky. So we have the sun on a nice summer July day, midday sun, just like Nelson, super, super hot, just like Kelowna or downtown Toronto. You're out just, the beaches or something. You've got that hot sun, beautiful, luminous sun. So we got two of them stacked one above the other. So the top one, we're going to visualize Prajnaparamita. So Buddhist goddess of wisdom, or Sophia in sort of wisdom deity in the Buddhist sense here. So she's made out again of golden light shining like the sun. She's in lotus position, beautiful young woman, like sort of a queen or princess. She's got a crown on, beautiful silks and jewelry and so forth. In lotus position. And she has four arms. So the first two arms, you see, she's just meditating, concentration. And the other two arms behind her are open up like this. And the left one has the Prajnaparamita text. So all the teachings on emptiness from Buddha Shakyamuni, the second turning of the wheel of Dharma. So in particular, Heart Sutras there, we can feel, and just one big compilation book. And Prajnaparamita teachings, the text in 100,000 verses. In her right hand is holding beautiful golden torch. And if you like at her heart, you can visualize a golden ah letter, either in the Sanskrit or the Tibetan or even English, AH, being the primordial syllable or vibration of wisdom realizing emptiness. Again, this joke came to my mind. It's like you're relaxed, sort of the tight grip of tension of samsara relaxes into emptiness, but also like you finally got it. It's you finally found your way out of the maze of samsara. It's like, this is it. It's been here all along. I've been free all along. I just didn't notice it. So the letter is at her heart. So just like sunlight, she's just radiant, beautiful light. And then below her is Buddha Shakyamuni. And let's just visualize him just very, very simple, made out of gold and light. Wearing 3 robes of a monk in lotus position, begging both medicinal nectar in his left hand, right hand touching the earth in the subduing. So it's almost like a Buddha's guru is above his head. Is all Buddhas come from Prajnaparamita, from wisdom and emptiness. Also from her wisdom manifesting all the different Buddhist deities and so forth. Everything comes from her. So they often represent her as sort of like the womb, divine womb, that everything comes from. All conventional reality from ultimate reality. So taking refuge in our hearts, we just go, I know sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So in particular, really seeing the unity of all these things. That refuge in the two Buddhas in front of us, refuge in the teachings on emptiness, and refuge in one another here, that we're all as a community supporting each other to realize this. Generating bodhicitta, again, through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. So really generating bodhicitta, whatever we're doing, even at this moment meditating, may be for the awakening of all sentient beings. May we become Buddha to lead all sentient beings to Buddhahood. It's the moment that's generating love, compassion, joy, and equanimity in your mind. It's wanting all beings to be happy, not wanting them to suffer, wanting them the bliss of enlightenment in nirvana, and having a balanced, open, warm, friendly, caring mind of equanimity here. 7 practice is prostration, showing respect for this highest of truth in front of us, opening our hearts to the mind of generosity of offering, standing up and being accountable ethically. That's the whole point, is that we're purifying ourselves to reach or doing the great work of self-overcoming to get enlightened. Rejoicing in this great work and all other sentient beings' virtues and goodness. And again, asking all holy beings to stay and teach, in particular Prajnaparamita and Buddha, always be in my life, lifetime after lifetime. Emptiness is right under my nose. It's the nature of all things. It's the nature of my mind even, but I don't see it because I'm deluded. So please keep telling me this, reminding me this over and over and over again until I get it. And dedicating everything for the awakening of all beings. Holding at the end of the heart, just from our heart, just visualizing it here and offering up just all the beautiful things in the world, almost like you're holding it on a plate here. Again, if you want to just do an offering like Samantha Badger, where you're just visualizing beautiful flowers and gardens, that's good too. So just a final offering to Buddha and Prajnaparamita. And now again, just golden light and nectar coming down, just like sun rays coming in. So just like having a tanning at the beach or going on your back porch. Sometimes I like in the winter time, especially in Nelson, but I used to do this actually a lot when we were living in Toronto a lot too. I go to different parks and just sit, and it's kind of like a sunny day, but really, really cold. And you know it's going to get dark at like 4:30, and so you just close your eyes and just stare at the sun and feel that warmth and light, and it just totally perks up with good energy, all that yang energy. Same thing here. Just all sentient beings, we're all just receiving all this golden light and energy into our body, blessing energy. And we bless Buddha Shakyamuni, just whose mind and senses of all Buddha jewels, speech senses of all Dharma jewels, and body senses of all Sangha jewels. Please grant us your blessings of body, speech, and mind. So with this 2 suns, Prajnaparamita starts glowing even stronger, sort of growing, just like a beautiful golden light. She sort of melts into, becomes this ball of light. And then it sort of dissolves into Buddha Shakyamuni, and now he gets really, really big ball of light. So it's like combined forces, they become one, but even bigger energy. It's like a big sun coming down to the crown of our head here. And just feel that that light's going on in all directions, like 360, and just totally turning into golden light everyone around us here. And now it starts to shrink. Get really, really small. Let's just say today it's about the size of like a dime. Make it a little bit bigger than normal. Enters the crown of our head, just like a beautiful ball of light or energy, golden light. And again, we can just feel it stare at our crown for a moment. Just feel that we're just turning into golden light ourselves with this. And now just starts to descend to our throat. Hangs up there for a little while. Descends to the heart. And even goes lower just to our navel chakra, so a little bit below your belly button to your Hara Jantian, which is the main energy center in your body here. 64 big meridians coming from that. And this just grounds us. Just feel like it's almost like you've been like a nail hit with a hammer. Bang, you're into the world here. Just feel completely connected in that peace, full of energy. And now the energy goes up, ball of light, with a ball of light there to our heart. Now that we're grounded, now it's dissolving into our heart, opening our heart. We become one with it. And just sitting with this, all this love and compassion, wisdom energy for a moment. Meditation here. That meditation actually is very one, because I've done Reiki for so many years. They call it solar image meditation that you get in Reiki, which is interesting from Japanese Reiki, the sort of Shingon roots of Reiki, which I think are really, really beautiful. Just been told many past lives as a monk in Japan, so I have that kind of connection to Japanese Shingon Buddhism in particular. And what I always love about Shingon is with Yoga Tantra, the main sort of what they call primordial Buddha, main important Buddha is Buddha Vairocana. Out of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, they sort of always put him at the middle of the mandala and say, because he is Buddha form, and emptiness. So it's kind of like Vajradhara for us in Tibetan Buddhism. So they also associate Buddha Dainichi, Dainichi Nyorai, or Vairocana Buddha. They call inner radiance Buddha. They sort of associate him with the sun as the main metaphor. With the great sun Buddha, they often call him, which is, I think, really, really beautiful, sort of showing your clear light or inner mind. So with Reiki, you see that the Reiki energy associate with Buddha energy. So that's what, Ki means chi, and Rei means kind of like what they call ancestral energy. So great ancestral home is your own Buddha nature, which is really beautiful. And that's what's healing about it. When I recognize that, connect with that, that's very, very healing. So that one meditation, it's very beautiful. You visualize, the Reiki energy is like a sun coming down into your body, going into your navel chakra. So anyway, just there you go. Just had to bring that in. I really, really like that meditation. And it's one we can do with Buddha Shakyamuni. All Buddhas are the same. Okay, going into the Heart Sutra here. So just got notes here. This is from the ACI practice course number 8. I guess Michael Roach taught this one, I remember, in 2000, I think, right before he went into 3-year retreat. I've always liked this particular class that he did. Just a very traditional Gelugpa exposition of the Heart Sutra. So we just read the Heart Sutra. It's amazing, just one page. And this is common to so many Mahayana traditions. I see it in Japan all the time. It's at Chinese Mahayana centers. And it's very cute when you go to Asia. A lot of times you can, at different Buddhist stores, they sell it as a sticker, or they have it. What I like is you can have it in your car, either like a little amulet, or oftentimes like the Chinese centers, I like it's on a bell that you hang from your mirror. So when you're driving, of course, the little bell's going and it's kind of activating, reminding you of emptiness, which is good when you're driving, because of course, at least when I'm driving, I get super upset with everybody in traffic. So it's like the reminder of hearing the Heart Sutra ringing in your ears there as you're driving, which I think is really, really good. Okay, so Heart Sutra. So I remember one thing I thought was really funny is I remember Geshe was saying that it's sort of presented a lot of times as something very sort of exotic, or almost sort of like a nihilistic statement. There's no this, there's no that. It's almost like being cool, like I don't care, nothing matters, nothing that like this Kenneth Rexroth, one of my favorite beat poets, who's just amazing. He used to make fun of that kind of what they call kind of beats and this kind of fake Buddhism in the 1950s. And he said he was at some Buddhist, some poetry reading, and there's this one guy who's like big Buddhist poet guy or whatever, and he was a real jerk. But anyway, he'd been served papers for child support, and he made this big thing. I'm Buddhist, so no child support. Rip, nothing matters. Rip. And Kenneth Rexroth, who actually was a good Dharma guy, it's like, no, actually, that's not how the Heart Sutra works. It's not about like denying your ethical responsibility. But anyway, so but that's of course how a lot of times when you read it, if you don't have a background, it can kind of come off this way, where it's just no this, no that. It's like, well, what's Buddha really getting at? And of course, it's not even Buddha, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, Buddha's listening to them sort of talk amongst themselves. So it's even a little bit more kind of, it's kind of a little bit ambiguous and a little bit exotic here. So what's interesting is I thought it's kind of neat that Geshe Michael says a lot of times it's almost a blessing, a karmic blessing, where it's like you encounter the Heart Sutra because you're at this crisis moment in your life where in psychoanalysis, they call it a deadlock. Like you're kind of stuck existentially. You can't back up and you can't go forward. You're in this position where your life is cracking open and not working anymore. You're in kind of like dark night of the soul. St. John of the Cross says there's some kind of existential Kierkegaardian crisis. And then all of a sudden you might be exposed to the Heart Sutra. So it's almost like, and then there's something in it, like it's almost like cool water in your face on a hot day. There's something, there's kind of a relief about it. But what is it? At the same day, it's almost like a gate opening and sucking you into this deeper understanding of things, right? So basically, the Heart Sutra in that one little page is the entire roadmap for your whole spiritual path to enlightenment. So once we understand how it works, because it's basically all about emptiness, we can use it to get enlightened and live this life of happiness that we're looking for. So we've talked about this before. I always hope I'm not sort of endlessly repeating myself, but in Buddhism, we talk about the basically 5 paths to enlightenment. So we're in samsara. We embark on this big spiritual journey, this sort of a Jungian alchemical odyssey here, going to enlightenment. And there's sort of 5 paths or 5 stages along this way. So first one, remember, is what they call the path of accumulation. Then there's the path of preparation, the path of seeing or insight. And then the last 2, the path of what they call, again, it's in Tibetan, it's Gomer meditation, but better translation is the path of habituation, or you could claim the path of embodiment, embodying the path at this point. And then the last one is the path of no more learning. So at this point, it's the final part where you get it and you arrive at your destination, your spiritual destination of enlightenment. So it's basically, this path is like going through one door after another here. There's sort of 5 doors that you go through to get enlightened. And each along the way, it's almost like in Shinto, where you have all the torii gates. When you go to Shinto shrines in Japan, oftentimes they'll just be out in the forest. There'll be like 1,000 gates that you're walking through, and it's beautiful. It's this idea that you're always already in this bardo state, crossing thresholds, entering new spaces. That life is like that. You're always growing. You're always self-overcoming. You're always going different space. Same thing. These are these 5 gates that you're going through. At the same time, it's like you're going deep. You're ascending almost in vibration and truth, but you're at the same time descending, going deeper and deeper and deeper in this process here. So the first, getting on the first path, like if there's the 5 paths here, Buddhist paths in the Heart Sutra itself, the first one is the path of accumulation. And that is what we'll see, which sort of even allows Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara to have this discussion about how to live sort of a bodhisattva's life. How do we get enlightened? The first thing that puts you on this path is the first of the 3 principal paths of Buddhism, which is renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom realizing emptiness. So renunciation is sort of the first main spiritual truth that you get that sort of puts you on this whole process in the first place. So it's, again, this sort of deep sort of existential angst or anxiety or rejection of life on one level, the rejection of the sufferings that you have in life. You're tired of your worldly life insofar as what it is, okay? You're at this point, there's this dawning of wisdom where you're starting to figure out that, how life goes, that basically, in like at Las Vegas, house always wins. You know that you're just basically not going to win at this roulette game of samsara, right? Okay, things you have this wisdom to see that things aren't always going right, that they never really work out. There's always sort of a crack. It's that idea that we've talked about before of when we talk about dukkha or suffering in sort of the original Sanskrit sense of dukkha being sort of the uneven axle of your chariot. So what I always say is just like when the alignment's off on your car, like if you've ever had alignment problems with the car. I remember a friend of mine's car was like that before we got it fixed. You can never let go of the steering wheel because the car just starts to go into the ditch. So you're always fighting to just maintain the car going in a straight line. So dukkha is that basically life's always like that. It's the uneven axle on a chariot, or the alignment's off. The moment I let go of the steering wheel, you're into the ditch, you're crashing. And so you're fighting life all the time because it's not working out. It's always working at about 75% or less. So you're always trying to make everything and work. What you see is everything's always flying apart from you, flying into pieces. So it never really does work. So this sort of moment of realization is you realize you can't stay where you are. You have to leave it or shift it to a new level, that you see no future in your life as it is in samsara. So the question is, can you escape this kind of existence? Where can we transition into another kind of life? So Heart Sutra, when we go through this gate of the Heart Sutra, we're exposed to it. It's showing you precisely how to do this. So this is what puts you on the first path of Solam, or the collecting merit for the path, or the path of accumulation. Again, so you're deciding you're not happy with the way your life is going. Over and over again, you see change, loss, and dissatisfaction. So you desire to move to a higher level where things don't work that way. So it's almost like at this point, there's here becoming a bodhisattva warrior, sort of fighting the maras, or sort of difficulties, obstacles in your own life, and obsessed with self-liberation, liberating yourself, and then liberating others. So they say even here that they talk about the bodhisattvas, even, how should a son or daughter or child of a noble family. The noble family here is interesting, is that we're all nobility because we all Buddha nature. But once we embark on this program and become a noble person by studying emptiness, eventually becoming a higher Arya by realizing emptiness directly, it's like you're claiming your birthright as a divine being. So it's almost like you found out that you're a member of royalty. You're just sort of a dummy working a dead-end job or something. And someone says, hey, did you realize that you're part of this amazing aristocratic family, and there's this castle in France, and it's like empty because your great great uncle died, and it's like he left it to you because you're the something, you're the great queen, and you're like, oh my god, really, that's amazing, I don't believe you. And it's just like, no, check it out. And then they give you the title, and you're just like, oh, I really am. I had no idea this whole time. And so it's the same thing where we're, by getting into the Heart Sutra, starting to study emptiness and starting to see our noble lineage. This is inspiring, and we're sort of, it's a noble lineage of spiritual warriors here. I have another note here that the real name of the Heart Sutra, even in Tibetan, but of course going back to the Sanskrit, is the idea of, quote unquote, conquering woman. So isn't that funny that, you know, the Heart Sutras, this we're going to see, it's because it's teachings on emptiness, it is the heart of the path, the heart of Buddhist teachings, the whole heart of Buddhism. Buddhism is about emptiness. But there's also this figure of Prajnaparamita, like Sophia, the goddess of wisdom. And again, Sophia, just like in the Greek sense, you have all the Mediterranean culture there, North Africa going into sort of Byzantium, into Turkey and Persia. There's this idea of different kinds of goddesses, but there's, you know, mother goddesses. You can think of ones like Hathor or Isis or whatever, different kinds of goddesses like Ishtar. But Sophia is a goddess where it's not a mother goddess. It's not an earth goddess. It's a goddess sometimes associated with space or the sky, but it's not like a lunar goddess. This goddess is just representing your own inner divinity. And it's funny that it's female. It's the idea that this wisdom is also generative or creative. So the Heart Sutra is the conquering woman. We can just feel that Prajnaparamita as sort of, she is the queen, the mother of all the Buddhas, and also kind of like the matriarchal, royal head of your family, kind of like the great ancestor of the past of your own Buddha nature. And the Heart Sutra is almost like your family deed or inheritance that you're being given by this great conquering warrior queen who's your own wisdom. Okay, so great quote by Nagarjuna here. Anyone who doesn't know emptiness has no hope of freedom at all. Left in the darkness, they will circle in the prison of 6 realms of pain. So unless we understand this whole program of emptiness with the Heart Sutra, again, we will just be stuck in this terrible position we find ourselves in right now. So we've entered the path of accumulation. We've started the process of purifying our minds and collecting good energy or virtue with the path of accumulation. Now, once we start actually getting clear on these teachings of the Heart Sutra, we're building up an idea or an image of our mind of what emptiness is. So that is the path of preparation. We're preparing to see emptiness directly. We're preparing for this massive spiritual experience of self-liberation. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just a little quote here. To realize emptiness, you have to give up your worldly life as your primary focus. Otherwise, you'll never have enough concentration. So you need to commit time to this. So on the path of preparation, what we're doing, this is basically the 3 higher trainings, as we say. We're living a life of virtue and ethics, because renunciation, we're renouncing this worldly life. Instantly, we're in this ethical world where we're focusing our mind. We're letting go of stuff that's bad for us and collecting or gathering stuff that's good for us on a spiritual level. So already we're sort of focusing our mind, training our mind into how to be a certain way and how not to be another way. So that's the ethical principle that lays the groundwork for the 2 other higher trainings, concentration, shamatha, and vipassana, which form the heart of the path of preparation. So becoming a good ethical Buddhist, becoming a decent, wholesome person with integrity. Now we're able to meditate. We don't have sort of this distracted, fried, worldly mind. We're starting to sort of go inward. And now we're able to meditate. We're able to concentrate our mind, just like in the past. So of course we did on tranquil abiding, shamatha. We're able to focus our mind and concentrate. And where are we going to put this concentrated mind? Into, quote unquote, superior seeing. We're going to put this mind into having a meditation on emptiness, the highest truth, lack of inherent existence of all things. So that is the path of preparation. Now, once we have strong mind of tranquil abiding. We meditate on emptiness. We go into the path of seeing. At this point, we see emptiness directly. This is the heart of the Heart Sutra. This is what we're trying to do. This is the whole point of that. So this path of seeing, it's very funny. Geshe Michael Roach always says that it takes 20 minutes. I don't know why it takes 20 minutes, but maybe it does. Like, who knows? There's some funny things in Buddhism like this. Like, I always remember my teacher, David Gonzalez, Venerable Staring, always said, Matthew, when you get enlightened, it will be 3 in the morning on a full moon. And I said, really? And he said, that's how it has to happen astrologically in terms of the winds, subtle winds or chi in your body for it to be able to do it. To actually have ultimate example, clear light, going to meaning clear light, that's how it works. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, that's all kind of astrological. And I said, why? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I bet you there's next to nobody in the world that can answer that question again, unless you're enlightened. So it's the same kind of thing. Whereas the path of seeing, where they say it takes 20 minutes, I'm always like, really? Only not 25 minutes, not 2 hours, not 5 minutes. But it's supposedly something like that. And again, why that's the case, I don't know. But the point is, it's not very long. And it's just this moment where you see emptiness directly and everything changes and you become an Arya and you're out of, on your way out of samsara to getting full enlightenment. So at that point, as we've said before, when you come out of your direct experience of emptiness, at that point, you see the 4 Arya truths, the 4 noble truths. Noble or Arya, because only noble or Arya beings who see emptiness directly know that they're true. They know that they're true because they see them directly. They see the sort of, again, all the teachings of the Heart Sutra being the case. They see true sufferings, true cessation, true origins, true cessations, and true. Last 2 here. So the 4th one is, once you come out of that direct experience of emptiness, you are now officially on the 4th path. You're almost done. And that's the path of habituation or embodiment, which is basically using this experience in your life, refining it, embodying it, really living it, going deeper till you're that way all the time. And then enlightenment itself, which is the path of no more learning. So again, this is said, it's not really path, but a state of being. Actually, all of these, even we call them paths, they're actually states of being or states of embodiment. We're going from one body into another body. And like I said, we're going through a body of organic flesh and blood falling apart to this diamond angelic body at the end of it. So the Heart Sutra is an explanation of how to get over the obstacles of the 5 paths. So it is a map to enlightenment. So the Prajnaparamita of Om Gadi Gada Paragada Parasamgadi Bodhi Soha embodies these 5 levels. So that mantra, like we've said, if you've ever read Trungpa Rinpoche's great translation of it, is the mantra is gone, gone, gone beyond, completely gone or completely open, awake, so be it, or so mote it be. So that one statement coming right from the Buddhas, from Prajnaparamita itself, Om Gada Gada Paragada Parasamgadi Bodhi Soha, encapsulates this entire process of enlightenment. So when you get enlightened and you hear that mantra, you're like, that was it. Right from the beginning, everything's in the little zip file. That one little mantra has the entire path. So that's the beginning of the Heart Sutra. You know, we're going to go into a lot more detail with this, but that's sort of the overview for the course. So I'd like to just finish, after any questions, we can chant the Gate mantra for a little moment every time, just to dedicate it. Any questions at all, just on Heart Sutra, just little observations or any sharing? And you don't have to, but yeah. What do you think, Maureen? Again?
Oh, I didn't realize I was unmuted.
Yeah, no.
No, thank you very much, Matthew. I was actually just wondering if there's any specific text that for reading during the week that you'd suggest.
You know, there's, again, an infinite number of Heart Sutra texts. There's so many good ones on that. I wouldn't even know where to start, to be honest. Holiness Dalai Lama's got a number of different good commentaries. Like, again, you don't want to, it's too much. It's like, I don't know, like if you go to Taiwan Fest here in Vancouver, you said they had too much street food and you get sick by eating all of it at the same time. You don't want to mix up too many different traditions. But I always think it's nice, whatever. Sometimes it's fun to even read different Buddhist traditions, different Mahayana takes on the Heart Sutra, because it's almost infinite. Of course, you can see on emptiness different ways. Like for the Gelugpa tradition, our tradition, Geshe Kelsang Gyatso Rinpoche's got that one Heart of Wisdom, which is good. I know Lama Zopa's got some great commentaries on his. Holiness the Dalai Lama's got a number of different books that you can get on that. I think he was teaching that when he came to Vancouver about 20 years ago. I think he did a teaching on that one as well. There's stuff free online. It's really, really beautiful. So like I say, there's just too much on there. I wish I could give you a good, but they're all good. All the ones that I've read on it, they've all been really, really illuminating on that one. I'm trying to think of even Ken Rinpoche in New Jersey, there, Lo Saint Tarchin had a book on that, on Heart Sutra or not. I can't remember. He's got one on praise of dependent origination. I think that's really, really good. That deals with some of that. But anyway, there's lots. I'm sorry for that. That doesn't sound like a good answer, but it's almost there's too much good stuff. So just see where your karma leads you when you do a little bit of a Google search or something and see.
Yeah, no, I have Geshe Kelsang's book
Yeah.
that I acquired at one point in time, and I think this is good to just remind me that I have it. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
It is, and I remember with that one, it is the traditional commentary in the sense that it's a presentation of the 5 paths to enlightenment. So the big clincher being the most important part is the transition from the path of preparation to insight or seeing. That flip over from your conceptual perception of emptiness to the real direct perception of emptiness. So that's the whole point. And there's a good discussion of that in there on that one.
So I do have a question actually,
Yeah.
and it just occurs to me, I've heard the teaching on the 5 paths, and
Yeah.
when I hear it, sometimes I think it's such a challenge of interpretation, right? Because all of this is coming through how many different iterations of translation, which we're getting a reflection, we're getting an imperfect reflection of another culture into ours. And Claude could probably speak to this, the challenge that happens with translation is trying to represent in here what has come from somewhere else, an entirely different mind. So what occurs to me is sometimes is that the 5 paths, it almost sounds like attitude is the wrong word, because attitudes it doesn't encompass it all. But I know that for myself, as I have attitudinal shifts, I also have body shifts that happen as well, and perspective shifts that will happen as my attitude change towards things. So for me, that's just trying to figure out what they're talking about when they're talking about 5 paths, to find for myself what makes this resonate and feel like something that I can embrace and make part of daily living. And attitude, I mean, it's trying to put language on something that isn't fully vested here yet. We're still so new as Buddhists, but yeah, so it's a struggle with looking at what does this 5 paths thing mean for me. And the one basic thing that I come to is, it's like attitude plus something else, and it's the other part of it for me that I'm not quite there yet, but it's something to entertain and struggle with.
That is a fabulous question, and maybe let's hope that our whole point of the course here together, we actually crack that nut or whatever, because I think that's excellent, and I hope I'm retranslating what you said perfectly to sort of get at what you're getting at, Maureen. But I think these are paths in your mind, and I think it might be a language thing. Of course, we're not speaking Tibetan or Sanskrit or anything else. I know, as I mentioned before, I've talked even to Claude about this, that I feel sometimes Dharma books written in French are better than English. I love reading Dharma books in French, and it may be the same thing if you read them in German or another. Like we read them in Tibetan is based on Sanskrit, so they've always said that emptiness is actually written right into the grammar. Like the religion is written. I mean, it might be you might be able to find like I've heard different things even about Orthodox Christianity being like that. Like if you look at the original Aramaic, like friend of mine, one of my ex-lieutenants, that Peter, that works at the co-op in Nelson now, he's from Malta, and the language there is Aramaic, like it's the original language spoken by Jesus, and the whole. So being a Christian in Malta, the language is closer to your religion, just your everyday language that you speak. It's really, really interesting. So there's a benefit for that. And I guess where I'm going with that is that I always find with English, as a nominative language, especially the way we speak and talk in North America, we externalize things into objects a lot. So I find a lot of times when we're talking about the 5 paths and we're talking about mapping, again, it's like going to try and climb a hill, right? Like only, and so in other words, you're always looking for external criteria to measure. Like, it's like we've got some big work module at work trying to work safe and make your back okay or something. Like, it's something you're trying to do to have external criteria. Do I pass that? Like, I have to do all my training every year online. I have all these little exams that come up, and do I pass it? But the point is, this isn't anything external. This is something internal in your own mind. And what's funny is why I always bristle when people call Buddhism a science, because I really don't think it's a science. Because science, as we understand it since the modern Cartesian period, is quantifying things mathematically, statistically, and being able to reproduce the data on that result. This is more of an art, like you're working in a tradition, like of carving, of painting, of sewing, of making textiles, in the sense that what you see is you've got a current that everyone's following in, yet there's a lot of individual variation. So what we'll see is when we're doing these 5 paths, we have these markers and there's a lineage, but how they cash out in your individual life is going to be very, very different, which is why you need a teacher. Because what you'll see, and we can see this already, is we might be doing the 5 paths. It's like, hey, we're all on the path of preparation. And then you just start, Maureen, and you're already on the path of seeing. And we're like, hey, hang on. She's doing it wrong, man. She can't be that far ahead. She just started. But the thing is, it's all karma. Maybe you did nail it the first time you sat down, which is why you have a teacher to check. So the point is, that's what's interesting, is that these things are internal things, and almost in a Jungian way. Everyone has their own process, their own milestones. And the path of seeing, what they always say is that there's, from what people told me anyway, is there's a big lead up. But I'm not saying it happens by accident, but it happens when the karma comes together, and it's not a thing you can prepare or intellectually gauge or set up. It's the karma comes together. So you have these sort of Zen moments of enlightenment and stuff. But our dear teacher, who Sue knows very, very well, Annie Lynn McNeil, always said, you don't jump off the cliff, you fall off the cliff. And I think with all of these paths, because they're emergent, so in biology, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. As you're moving, they flip into one another. So it's not like you're driving, you have the road sign, oh, I'm on the path of seeing, that was just like GPS said. It's almost like, I always find Google Maps, when I've been driving across, always gets the time wrong, where I'm just kind of like, I'm driving whatever into Medicine Hat or something, coming over into Nelson, and they say, oh, wow, it's 7 hours from now. It's like, man, that took 12 hours. That wasn't what the GPS said at all. It's always off. It's the same thing here with these 5 paths. They're internal things. They're in the end, it's going to be what it is for you, with your teachers corroborating it. And so it's not like something mathematical, scientific, like a map, where you're plotting yourself on an ego way, where you can sort of almost do like a GPS. It's way more organic than that. You can't rush it. It's growing. And based on your karma, it's that garden's going to grow in the way that's specific to your garden. Is that making sense? Is that helpful, Maureen, a little bit? So that's why it's a process of embodiment. Just like if you're learning a skill, some people are really pick it up quick. Some people, it's really hard for them to do. Eventually they do it. Some people come at it from a different angle. Like you're teaching how, like, to tie knots. Like I used to work at a marina, and sometimes you're showing people to do stuff and they can't do it your way. They have to come at it in a different way. Well, I tie it this way. And in the end, it's the same perfect knot,
Yeah, what you're saying, Matthew, is very interesting, because what you're saying is we do need to have the kind of constituent inputs to be able for us to move along, or it's almost like it's a gestational kind of process, right? So if you have the constituent parts put into this and you continue and persevere, it's sounding a bit like a baker I was talking to recently. She's working with sourdough. And so she was showing how, yeah, the weather changed and the sourdough, I did the usual thing, but the sourdough did a different thing because the temperature changed and atmospheric kind of inputs changed. She didn't have any control over those. She still got something, but it was a different time and a different product came out. So this sounds very much like that. And also, I'm just resonating with what you're saying about how, yes, I know for me, with a Western mind, I'm trying to get it right. So I keep looking out and I keep disregarding a lot of what's going on here, to kind of find something out there to impose and put on like an exoskeleton so that am I doing it right? But then I'm disregarding what actually is happening in here. What am I doing with the inputs that are part of this? And then I undermine myself by doing that. So thank you. This has been
And you
helpful.
see, like that might be a little bit more of a quote unquote intuitive. Sometimes in the old days, they say almost like women's way of working, this kind of thing. But it's trusting the body, trusting that this whole process. And that's hard because you see, it's not an intellectual process. As much as Galupas were into learning all the debating, getting all these concepts and stuff, it's like you said, it's an organic process. It's an art. It's growing something. It's growing out of something. So just like Kierkegaard says, life has to be lived forwards, but only makes sense backwards. A lot of times with the path, you only know you're on a path or ground because you know you're in a different place than where you were. Like it's not like, ding, oh my God, I can't believe I'm on the first Bodhisattva Bhumi. Wow, I can emanate 5 bodies now. It's just you look backwards and say, I'm a different person now. And you don't actually, what I've always found is you can't really even map out when that change happened. It was like a flip. Like, oh, I'm not so angry anymore, or whatever. I find I can sit longer, or these pains in my body are gone. I find it's easier to be kinder to people. But it's not like, well, last Saturday at 10 in the morning, ding, I saw this light. Now all of a sudden I'm more polite in my interactions in public. It's just kind of like over time, you end up growing. So literally it is an organic process of growing into it and trusting that and trusting the path, trusting your teachers, trusting your own progress with that. So you can look back and say, wow, oh my goodness, this is how it's working. So that's why it's very, very different. It's not like you're downloading something. Everyone gets the same download. Okay, is everyone in class? Everyone have the PDF? I sent it to everybody. Ding, oh, it's the same PDF and we all get it. And that's why Trungpa said, like, fundamentalist religion is where people are trying to approximate an external standard, right? So again, I don't want to make fun of like other religions, but let's just say you got Taliban people where the whole point is to dress like or act like a Muslim should act. So they would measure people's beards, remember? And you have to have the hat this way and talk a certain way. And I always had that where I don't want to pick on, but I've had sometimes, I've met certain maybe, I don't know, people's level of realization, but maybe a little more phony Christian people where it's an act, like they're imitating what they think a Christian should be like, where it's just like, hi, how are you? And it's this kind of put on thing where it's like an image or a costume that they're trying to put on. And of course, Tibetan Buddhism is full of stuff like this, where, like you can dress up like a Chidpa or dress up like a yogi or something, or yogini, or I want to act like Lama Matthew. And you get this. I remember our teacher, Kandro Rinpoche, making fun. It sounds a little, she's maybe picking on like certain kind of phony Zen people, where it's just like Matthew Richards is, Roshi Matthew, and I have a Zen rock garden and I garden and I write haiku and I make tea and I'm very gentle. And it's kind of like acting like Yoda. And I know some people think Buddhists should always be like that there's a kind of like a costume or like a little thing. And then when they meet Buddhists who are not like that, like I remember my friend Charmaine saying that because she's tough talking lady, you're not a Buddhist because you're not acting like Yoda. It's like, well, who says Buddhists have to act like that? Like some great Buddhist saints, just like some Christian saints, when you read the Christian saints from the Middle Ages, they're really, really weird people. They're great people and they have all these amazing spiritual CDs and stuff like that, but they don't act like you would think someone act. There's that one Christian saint, he has that severed leg, I can't remember, and he hits you with the leg. Does anyone, he's from the middle, he's this weird yogi and he has this dried up leg. And if you're like a bad person or something, he hits you with the leg and you think, well, why, like like of all ways to be, why would you run around being like that, right? But the point is something's happening there. He's this great kind of Christian saint. Anyway, so thank you for the I thank you for the questions. An excellent one, Maureen. You can see we can go on and on about it, but it's that idea of how do we see these things as forms of embodiment, as inner paths, as interpersonal transformation, not as some sort of external thing that we're trying to do in the world. It's an internal movement that we're doing. So again, heart going inward, which is, I guess we can try and take that for Heart Sutra. So anyway, it's 9 o'clock already. Is that okay, everybody? Any other question? Can we end it there? Some thumbs up. Okay, good. So let's just take 7 mantras here. We can chant to ourselves. Latte mantra. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi So. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi So. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Okay, dedicating all this for the awakening of all beings. Okay, see you next time. Thanks for coming.